All right, let's talk about a superbug that's way closer than you probably think. We're talking about Staphylococcus aureus. You've probably heard of it as staph. Now, this is a bacterium that's been hanging out with humans for thousands of years, but it's also one of our absolute toughest and most adaptable enemies.
And what's really wild is just how common it is. I mean, right now, about a third of us are carrying staph on our skin or in our noses. And for most of us, it's no big deal. It's just a silent passenger along for the ride.
But you know, there's a dark side to this relationship. How does this totally common bug suddenly transform into its superbug alter ego, MRSA, which has now become one of the top bacterial killers in the world? To get that, we need to break down what makes this thing such a formidable opponent.
So on one hand, you have your regular garden variety staph, the kind our antibiotics can usually knock out. But on the other hand, you've got MRSA, and that stands for Methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. And that's just a fancy way of saying it's a version that has learned to shrug off some of our most common, heavy-hitting antibiotics.
And believe me, this isn't just some little skin bug. Oh no, it is a master of invasion. The second it breaks past our skin and gets into the bloodstream, it can go after nearly every single part of the human body. Your bones, heart valves, your lungs. It can even set up shop on surgical implants, like prosthetic joints. It's relentless.
So the big question is, how does it do it? Well, the secret to staph's success is its absolute genius for fighting back against our immune system. It has this entire arsenal of tricks that makes it incredibly difficult for our bodies to get rid of it.
Okay, so imagine your immune system is like an emergency service. As soon as staph invades, your body dispatches the first responders, these cells called neutrophils. But staph doesn't just sit there and wait. It immediately starts releasing these powerful toxins that are specifically designed to kill those immune cells the moment they show up.
And if that wasn't enough, it's also a master of disguise. Staph makes this thing called protein A, which is basically a molecular cloaking device. It grabs onto our antibodies, but it grabs them backwards. This move completely prevents our immune system from recognizing it and tagging it for destruction. It's kind of like it's wearing our own team's uniform to just sneak right past the guards.
Staph even has a Trojan horse strategy, which is just brilliant. It actually lets itself get eaten by our immune cells, but instead of being destroyed, it survives and then multiplies inside them. It literally turns our own defenses into a safe house, hiding out from antibiotics and any other immune attacks.
So beyond all these active attacks, staph is also an expert at playing defense and just being patient. It doesn't just fight, it digs in for the long haul.
One of its best defensive moves is creating something called a biofilm. Just picture this dense, slimy shield made of bacteria all huddled together. This fortress is unbelievably difficult for our immune cells and our antibiotics to break through, which is a huge reason why infections on medical devices like catheters or artificial hips are so incredibly stubborn.
And inside these fortresses, staph has another trick up its sleeve. It creates these persister cells. Now, these are a small group of bacteria that just go dormant. They basically go to sleep. And since most antibiotics are designed to kill active growing bacteria, these persisters can survive a whole course of treatment. And then once the coast is clear, they just wake up and start the infection all over again.
And all of this brings us right to the heart of the MRSA problem, this constant evolutionary arms race. Every single time we develop a new weapon, this bacterium finds a way to adapt and fight right back.
This timeline really tells the whole story, doesn't it? Soon after we introduced penicillin back in the 1940s, staph figured out how to resist it. So we created methicillin, and boom, it became resistant to that too. That's where MSRA comes from. Then we turned to vancomycin, one of our last lines of defense, and sure enough, by the late 90s, we started seeing strains that could resist that too.
So what do you do when one weapon just isn't cutting it anymore? Well, you try using two. Scientists and doctors ran these huge trials testing out combination therapy, hitting the bacteria with multiple antibiotics at once, hoping that a two-pronged attack would finally overwhelm its defenses.
But the results from these major clinical trials have been, well, consistently disappointing. What they found was that, yeah, sometimes combining the drugs could clear the bacteria from the blood a little faster, but that small victory came at a really significant cost.
And here's the absolute bottom line. Patients weren't any more likely to survive, and even worse, they were much more likely to suffer from really serious side effects like acute kidney damage, which can be life-threatening on its own. The treatment was actually proving to be harder on the patient than it was on the bug.
Okay, so if fighting an infection with antibiotics is this constant uphill battle, then the holy grail, the ultimate weapon, would be a vaccine, right? Something to prevent the infection from ever getting started.
This is honestly one of the biggest mysteries in infectious disease research. Despite enormous effort and a ton of money, every single major staph vaccine trial in humans has failed. And the answer seems to lie in this really fascinating but super frustrating paradox involving our own immune system.
So here's the issue. Most of us get exposed to staph when we're really young. Our immune system sees it, figures out a way to fight it, and creates a memory of that battle plan. The problem is, when a vaccine comes along with a new, better plan, our body's old pre-existing memory can actually get in the way and sabotage the new instructions from the vaccine.
A huge trial for a vaccine called V710 didn't just fail to protect patients who were about to have surgery. No, it led to a result that was so alarming it sent total shockwaves through the entire research community.
Get this. In a completely shocking turn of events, the patients who got the vaccine and later got a staph infection were 5 times more likely to die than the unvaccinated patients who got infected. The vaccine, the very thing that was supposed to help, was somehow making the infection far more deadly. It's just a terrifying example of how trying to retrain our immune system can go horribly wrong.
So after decades of fighting this thing, struggling with resistance, failing to create a vaccine, where does that leave us in the battle against this incredibly crafty superbug?
As some of the leading researchers in the field put it, this isn't an enemy that's just going to disappear. Staph has proven over and over again how resilient it is, which just makes the search for totally new strategies, things like phage therapy or novel antibodies, more urgent than ever before.
And that's really the question we're left with, isn't it? This ancient bacterium has been sharpening its survival skills for eons, and it is constantly evolving. The ongoing battle against staph is a critical race against the clock. Can our science evolve fast enough to finally outsmart one of nature's most successful pathogens?